I hope everyone is having a good Tuesday. So far, so good. Productive day, so I can't necessarily complain. This story is not going to be all that fast. There's not a huge amount to the story, but it is something I want to say about it. This is going to be, I guess, a short video on the Russiagate issue. I mean, I guess this has been going on for years. And I guess this kind of ending of it, there's certain feelings associated with the ending of it. And so there are things, aspects of it that I want to cover and I want to talk about almost in this kind of specific detail and use a small show to do it in. With all of the focus on mainstream media's failure in this case, and the focus should be to some degree on the mainstream media's failure, I don't want people to necessarily forget where this started and why this was able to propagate in the way that it was able to propagate. It's true that there may be a political component, meaning it's kind of a counterintelligence case. But from the political angle, that's where I want to delve into, and that's what I want to talk about. When Clinton lost the presidential race, it became clear that, and this is from information from behind the scenes in the book Shattered, and I'm even going to read the passage, but in summary, it became clear that Clinton didn't want to deal with the fact that she lost. And in not wanting to deal with the fact that she lost, she was willing to create this other overarching narrative to cover that fact. And to make this argument, I didn't lose because I was a horrible candidate. I didn't lose because I didn't go to Wisconsin. I didn't lose because I pretended or acted as if people owed me their vote, that I was their savior from this monster, Donald Trump. I didn't lose because I picked Tim Kaine after nearly losing to a socialist. I didn't lose because, I cheated Bernie Sanders. I didn't lose because I looked at his supporters with a certain degree of disdain. I didn't lose because I was the most hated candidate, with the exception of Donald Trump. I lost because of Comey, but more so, Trump and Russia. That these things are tied, and you need to get out there and you need to make that argument that there was a foreign power that usurped our election and that was working with Donald Trump to do it. That's what you need to get across. This election was not on the up and up, and it was not my fault that I failed to such a magnificent, splendid degree. And that is indeed what took place. You can imagine that the Clinton camp has all sorts of media connections where they can get a story propagated and bubbled up. I mean, at this point, the media is just an aspect of a political arm. And in that story, propping up that way, that story had something that was satisfying to each and every person, making them susceptible to kind of wanting something out of it. Meaning in situations where objectivity should have been the point of view, it became a want. The people who took on this idea of objectivity, they took on objectivity from the standpoint of they have a want, or at the very least not being honest about the fact they have a want. You can see them each and every night salivating, wanting to get their teeth in Donald Trump's hairy hide. One story after the next, the wagons are circling around Trump. Oh my God, how long could the president last? This case is opening up against Trump. This is opening up against Trump. This porn star said this. One story after the next, where they're acting as if Donald Trump is on his last leg and is about to be carried out of the White House. All of it wrong. Well, not all of it. Donald Trump lies flamboyantly. But on the very specific point of the Trump and Russia collusion, all of it wrong. All of the innuendo, all of the, having the intelligence professionals on, making these proclamations that Donald Trump is somehow guilty. All of it wrong. All of it wrong. But all of them wanted something. Like I said, they hated his guts. And some of them might have even taken the point of view that what they were doing was in the best interest of America because Donald Trump was a threat to democracy itself. There's no way to know what's in their head. I'm just kind of making the point that there's something succinct and satisfying to each of them within this particular narrative of Donald Trump and Russia. And not just that, Donald Trump working with the foreign government in order to usurp the election itself. Go to the public itself. The public itself is looking at this from this, well, before we get to the public, the executives of the news media organizations. Clearly, this Tom Clancy-esque, the president of the United States as a foreign asset to a hostile power. Oh, shivering how much they love it. You can imagine that this is massively incentivized just based on the narrative itself and whether or not they can put asses in seats. Look at Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow went full retarded on this one. For years, she had been putting out one hysterical story after the next, one after the next. And I don't say hysterical because she's a woman. I say hysterical because she was being hysterical. Just saying. Call me an hysterical also. The media executives, this was kind of a gimme, right? I mean, it's easy to see how this will be something that they would love because of the narrative that can be created and a story that they can perpetuate. The public itself is in this situation where they are terrified. You have an aspect of the public that has heard for the last X number of months that this man was a menace and this man was going to end life on the planet itself. They're freaked out. One story after the next that comes out and they're glued because they want him out of that office. And they're not going to scratch that deep beneath the surface for something that may give him the chance of getting out that office. Like my mom said one day, I just want him to be prosecuted for something. I don't care if he's not guilty, I just want him prosecuted. She was being honest. She was being honest. And of course, you can imagine Democrats. This is kind of like the Obama being, a Kenyan thing. I don't need to look that deeply beneath the surface. I don't like him. I hate his guts. I just want him out that office. All of these people are incentivized to take a certain position. This is a swath of the society, particularly when the media organizations get into this and blow this as loud as they can blow it. Even if you don't necessarily pay attention to media like talking about, you still get just enough of it to think he probably has something to do with it. All of them were incentivized. My point is, going back to the root of this though, where did this start in a political sense? Clinton, in her campaign bunker, sending off this last parting shot into our political discourse. I'm going to read this part in the book. Right here. I'm going to read this part in the book. So this is Shattered. And let's show the media personalities who screwed this up so magnificently. Oh, I love that being the first one. In other calls with advisors, the political surrogates in these days after the election, Hillary Clinton declined to take responsibility for her own loss. She's not being particularly self-reflective, said one longtime ally who was on call shortly after the election. Instead, Hillary kept pointing her finger to Comey and Russia. She wants to make sure that all of these narratives get spun the right way, the person said. The strategy had been set within 24 hours of the concession speech. Mook and Podesta assembled her communications team at the Brooklyn headquarters to engineer the case that the election wasn't entirely on the up and up. For a couple of hours, the Shake Shack containers littering the room, they went over the script they would pitch to the press and to the public. Already, Russian hacking was the centerpiece of this argument. In Brooklyn, her team coalesced around the idea that Russia hacking was a major unreported story of the campaign, overshadowed by the contents of the stolen emails in Hillary's own private server imbroglio. They also decided to hammer the media for focusing so intently on the investigation into her emails, which had created the cloud over her candidacy. The press botched the email story for 18 months, said one person who was in the room. Comey obviously screwed us, but the press created the story. This is the beginning of the story. There are WikiLeaks documents where the conversation about Russia was going back to 2014. But if you're talking about a direct, we are going to do this after the election in order to get across a point of view within the country itself, that point of view was Russia helped get Donald Trump elected. And you need to make sure you get that out there. And that I didn't lose because of my own failings. I lost because of Russia helping Donald Trump get elected. And of course, after this, there was talk about, hey, maybe Clinton can somehow take the presidency because the election wasn't on the up and up. Or, hey, Donald Trump was a completely illegitimate president. He didn't win on his own merits. He won because of Russia, and he was working with Russia. It's like that next step right there, right beside it. I guess my point is this. This has been a political hit job. This has been a perspective that has been put out based purely on political motives. And I would imagine some people were useful idiots. Some people knew but didn't necessarily care. But at the end of the day, you have a situation where a large segment of the society itself starts to buy into something that was done in a political operation. Not to mention the hypocrisy in this idea that Donald Trump was working with a foreign government, even though Hillary Clinton got the dossier from a foreign government. She paid for it. So there's somehow a difference. All right, I'm going to end this here. I'm not going to keep this one long because I have a list of videos that I need to get to today. I have a list of videos that I need to get to today. So I will see you guys in probably 30 minutes or so, more or less. If you guys enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all. And 11 minutes is not bad.